breaking down all the plays and getting you in the action. We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Marco's Pizza.
Oh, I love that intro music. Don't you, Deon Thompson?
Yeah.
We are ready to go here on another edition of the BCSN Nation podcast, episode 23. We are powered by Marco's Pizza. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sports fans, non-sports fans, casual sports fans, welcome on in. We are ready to go as we power through the high school basketball season here on the BCSN Nation podcast. Worth mentioning again, powered by Marco's Pizza. I'm Justin, that's Deon. We are dropping new episodes of this podcast each and every week. Wednesdays at 3 o'clock is when you can set your alarm to tune in to this podcast. Deon, let's crank it out here. Start it off. We're going to go from conference to league, conference league, boys and girls side. And we are coming off a fantastic night of Friday night hoops on Game Day Nation. We had tight games all across the area, including not one, but two buzzer beaters, and then a final 10 seconds of a game between St. John's and Lima Senior. Another battle there that came down to the final seconds.
I was out of town, but trust me, I was keeping track of it. It looked like we had some really good games, especially what happened out there at Anthony Wayne. I mean, can you believe that? Like, back-to-back games?
Yeah.
I mean, that was crazy. You know what I really liked about that? I don't know if you saw what Coach 𝗦𝗫𝗀 said, because apparently there was some controversy about did the shot
go off on time?
Yeah, I liked his response. Very classy. Didn't blame the officiating. Hey, those things happen. I really like when coaches do that, because it sends a message to your team. We're not going to be crybabies. We got to deal with it. I love that. So Coach 𝗦𝗫𝗀 shouts out.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. Excellent point here on the podcast, because, yes, Leah Pike did not get the shot off in time. We broadcasted the game here on BCSN. You can freeze frame it. The ball in her hand, we're still touching. Clock struck 0. It was a tie game at that point, so technically it should have gone to overtime, but it was a bang-bang deal. Referees are looking and seeing in real time. It was fractions of a second difference, but a great game. Value on both sides, winning and losing. You don't want a game to be decided by a quote-unquote inaccurate call, but I think high school sports lessons learned, you bring it up. He sets an example for his players, the rest of his coaching staff, really the league as well, and what the NLL represents in sportsmanship. So I echo your sentiment to Coach 𝗦𝗫𝗀. We're going to talk about Anthony Wayne. They had another win against Toledo Christian on the girls' side on Tuesday night, live on BCSN. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to start with the Parker Schofield buzzer beater for Anthony Wayne. He was the Sean's Irish Tavern Player of the Week. As a result of that, he's been filling it up and doing a heck of a job for the Generals. They kind of had a late season push towards the top of the NLL, and they knocked off Springfield, 3-point buzzer beater, 59-56 the final. Anthony Wayne did follow that up on Saturday with a 1-point loss at Columbian on the road in Tiffin against a great team. Logan Beeston is Tiffin Columbian's team, and a number of area players and coaches and fans are going to know about him as we enter February and March Madness, because he is filling it up. But Springfield comes on the short end. They do bounce back on a Tuesday night game, get a close win against Southview, 64-62. Napoleon took down Bowling Green on Tuesday night in overtime, 79-74, and Perrysburg, 63-48 over Northview. But what I wanted to bring up here with the NLL is we see those teams that are in the bottom spring up. Napoleon gets a win. Southview battles Springfield to a 2-point game. We've seen it consistently, and even more so here late in the season. Anybody can beat anybody.
And I'm going to quote my buddy Dennis Hobson. By the way, shouts out to the street being named after him.
Yes.
He always said this. He's like, you want to play your best basketball at the end of the year, because you know exactly who your team is as a coach. So there's no surprises. The scouting reports, everybody understands their roles at that time. And I think that's what we're starting to see here, because, we called it at the beginning of the year, a lot of parity in a lot of different leagues. We knew that there could be some upsets, but you have teams now playing their best basketball. Some of the bottom tier teams, quote unquote, are playing really well. So you have to come every night. You just can't say, all right, let me look at the guy. They're in 6th place. That should be a win. You cannot do that. That's a danger trap if you're a coach. But how to convey that to the kids, that's a whole nother story. But I agree with you. A lot of good teams are playing good right now.
Let's take a look at the NLL standings. You got them in
Got 'em.
front of you. We know that Perrysburg and Springfield have been at the top. We've seen Northview make a push a little bit. We've seen Anthony Wayne make a push a little bit, and it's going to be decided in the last week of the season.
You know, I've been on the Perrysburg bandwagon. You know this, Justin, since the beginning of the year. I still think it's theirs to lose. But you're right. I mean, even Southview, they're playing really well. We didn't expect much from them, you know, so you have to be careful. But I still think if Perrysburg takes care of business, and they play really well, you know, this time of the year too, I think it's theirs to lose. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think they're consistent. They've been the most consistent, in my opinion, in that league.
Yeah, distinctive win over Northview, an up-and-comer, if you will, and a Coach Jeremy McDonald. You know, his teams are going to be prepared no matter what and no matter who they're playing, whether it's in the NLL or outside the NLL. But Perrysburg, in your estimation, the team to beat still as we approach the final stretch here in the regular season. Let's switch now to the track, Deon. St. John's beat Lima Senior 44-43 this past Friday night. Whitmer took down St. Francis 60-58. Very, very close game there. It appears to be a two-team race in the track. Whitmer is at Central Catholic Friday, February 10th, so not this Friday, but next Friday. Depending on how things fall, we'll see if that game is a winner-take-all situation, because we did get an upset on Tuesday night, Deon. Lima Senior at home takes down Whitmer 52-46.
It was Anthony Mosley and 𝗦𝗀𝗡𝗶𝗴𝗵𝘁𝗹𝘆. We don't talk about them much because obviously, you know, they're a little bit down 75. But if you watch that game from start to finish, with the exception of there was a tie, but Lima came out on fire.
Yeah,
they out-rebounded Whitmer, which was something you don't expect, 14-9. I mean, and they hit those 3 consecutive threes. I think that's what did it. And I almost sensed that Whitmer, they forgot who they were. In a sense, you know what I mean? They went through a scoring drought, and Lima just played it out. And you just said it earlier, one of the middle-tier, lower-tier teams. We didn't expect much from Lima this year. That's a huge win. So I don't know if Whitmer was looking forward to next week, which you cannot do.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's going to come down – well, I can't even say that because we don't know what's going to happen. St. Francis is playing well. St. John's is playing well. But I do think it is a two-team race potentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, with Lima Senior, Quincy Simpson, those teams have been through the gauntlet. They schedule tough. They've been on long district championship runs, regional championship runs, appearances in the state Final Four. So, yes, they lost a lot of their veteran leadership from last year's team, so they have new players in heightened roles, but still they were participants in those. They've been on the bench, or they've been getting some role minutes.
Listen, if you notice Quincy he doesn't look phased, and now I know why. They have a junior high. They have 2 kids on that junior high team who are going to come up, even though they're going to be in the city league, but their junior high program is outstanding. So they're going to bring some guys who, from what I'm hearing, are next level type guys. 2 Division I potential guys playing in junior high right now. So I guess I'd be happy too if I was Coach Simpson.
So we'll see how that one shakes out. We will broadcast the Whitmer at Central game on Friday, February 10th. Oof. That will be our BCSN game of the week, but we still have a couple games for both of those squads in between. So as you look at the standings, both Whitmer and Central Catholic have 2 losses, correct, Deon?
They do. We got Whitmer 9-2 and Central's 8-2, so they're a half a game up. And yesterday was a game, if Whitmer wins that would have really put them in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Put a lot of pressure on Central. So, you know, it's going to come down. Who's going to play with the sense of urgency? Now, Whitmer obviously is going to get refocused, you know, after this game. But next week, February, you're going to want to be there, guys.
All right, let's go to the City League now. Bowser destroyed Rogers 71-45 over the past weekend. Start is going to face Scott on Tuesday, February 7th. That game will be on BCSN, arguably the game of the year within the City League to help determine the final standings there. Start won the first meeting against Scott, and that was at Start's home court. But then we saw Scott get a win on Tuesday night against Maumee Valley Country Day, a solid from beginning to end victory. But Start continues to remain undefeated in the City League, and we're probably going to see Start and Scott play not only in the regular season Tuesday night finale, but the 4 top teams in the City League advance to a mini 4-team bracket city championship, so we could get a rematch the next week in the league championship game.
If things hold serve, don't sleep on that Bowser team.
I know.
They're playing pretty well right now. You know, if Bowser and Scott, I think that could be a competitive contest. And I'm forecasting. I think it starts to lose, just like I said with Perrysburg. I think Start has the most talent. They do a great job defensively. You know, if Scott can somehow manage to pull it off, now it'll be exciting. But right now, I just think Start is just a little bit, well, I'm not even going to say a little bit, probably head and shoulders above the rest of the league. But I really like the way that Bowser team's coming on. I've been watching them all year. And they got some guys. Thames is playing really well right now.
Yeah, Joe Guerrero, longtime coach in the area, I believe 37 years worth of coaching in a variety of spots in and around Northwest
He coached
Ohio.
when I played, so if that tells you anything. Because I work with Gil at 11. I'm like, you guys, you guys were coaching when I played. So still look great, too.
Yeah.
You know, young minds, sharp, so they've done a good
Joe,
job.
just a first-class stand-up guy. He will coach the players in front of them.
Yes.
And they had Delonte Brown a few years ago.
Went
to University Miami down in Oxford. That team was special. Got 20-plus wins, went on a tournament run. Just a fun basketball team to watch.
You know, when I talked to Gil, I asked him, I said, how was it transitioning? You know, because they're old school coaches, so they transitioned from one era to the next era. And one of the things, they always stayed in tune, you know, with their players, but they would hire good assistants too. Yeah. And I think that's important, you know, that can relate a little more, maybe younger guys, up-and-comers, and show them the ropes. But they've managed to coach in so many different eras and do it effectively. So I think that's impressive.
Yeah, and Coach Guerrero working toward a milestone. I'll let him explain it as we approach here and then final stages of the basketball season, but BCSN will be there when that happens. I'll put it that way. Toledo Area Athletic Conference, Deon, Maumee Valley Country Day upset Cardinal Stritch this past Friday, 70-64. We have a game of the week within the TAC that we'll get to later in the podcast between Toledo Christian and Ottawa Hills, but I want to focus in on Cardinal Stritch because we thought that we would have Emmanuel Christian and Cardinal Stritch battling towards the end, and one loss on Cardinal Stritch's side when the teams met earlier in the regular season. But like you said, don't take any teams lightly from the middle of the pack, and Maumee Valley Country Day came up and bit Stritch last weekend.
We talked about it. I mean, if you've been, well, obviously people are listening to us, like there's so much parity. I mean, there's a few teams, obviously, but any team can lose. To us, that makes it fun. I know coaches, you guys hate it, but we love it over here. I do think it's Emmanuel Christians to lose. I think they just, you know, with Brown, Easter, you know, Miles, they have a lot of talent. They're playing pretty well right now in spite of a lot of other things. They don't appear to be distracted. But Stritch has size, though. I think Stritch, size-wise, can match up with them. They do a good job on the boards. They can get out and run. I think when I watched Toledo Christian, and I'm going back a little bit, what they did out of the zone, they played the percentages. They forced some outside shots. If Stritch can manage to do that and not let Jerry get inside, because he's so good at penetrating the zone and finding the open guys, I would do that if I was Stritch. I'm going to take my chances. You guys better be hot tonight, or else we're just going to pack it in and make you shoot it from the outside and try to beat you.
Yeah, Stritch is going to have to regroup. They will have the home court advantage when the two meet on Friday, February 3rd. That is our game of the week. We'll get to more of that here in a second. But hats off to Maumee Valley Country Day. As mentioned before, they did stumble on the road at Scott on Tuesday night following that win against Cardinal Stritch. But Maumee Valley Country Day, C.J. Majors showing that they have some game in them as well. And you mentioned the size with Stritch. You got Christian Burton and Breon Hicks, two go-to playmakers for the Cardinals.
And that place is tough to play at. Stritch is like a little boxy gym. You know, it's very cozy to them, so they can get out there. They play usually well in their home gym. It's going to be a good game, though. They're not going to lay down. And that's one thing if you've been noticing about a lot of these lower-tier teams. Yeah. And shouts out to the coaches for making them believe they can win, because they've been pulling off some things that quite honestly, I didn't expect to see. So, shouts out to Coach Fleming over there at Maumee Valley. He's doing his thing.
Yep, we'll get, again, some more Game of the Week talk with Cardinal Stritch and Emmanuel Christian later in the podcast. All right, let's go to the Northern Buckeye Conference. Reaction to Eastwood at Rossford on Tuesday night. Rossford took care of business big time with a 20-point victory. Rossford is at Genoa on Friday, February 17th. If everything stays the same, that game will determine whether Rossford gets an outright NBC title or if it is a shared title with the team splitting. Rossford took it to Genoa at Rossford earlier this season in a Game of the Week here on BCSN. But Rossford has continued to get the job done. They've battle-tested. They did lose to Wauseon a couple of 10 days ago.
This is a good game.
Yes, but NBC looks to be Rossford's as of right now.
It is. I mean, I know I like the build-up, Justin. You did a good job setting that up. But I think, with Vorst, 6'11", it's just too much for those guys. And if you watched them last night, I mean, the guys, getting his own rebound, two-hand dunks, like they have a lot of athletes there. And Vorst is, to me, he's the difference maker. You got a guy 6'11" in high school.
Right.
I mean, in that league, what can you do with him?
Correct.
Because he's a stretch five, so he can knock down the shots. And then you always hear me talk about Revels and Murphy and Morris and all those guys.
Correct.
But you really think about it. If you collapse on Vorst, he has shooters. That's what makes that team effective.
Yeah, they have so many complementary pieces to the main piece of Derek Vorst, not only, as you mentioned, inside in the post and the paint, but he can stretch it out going outside as well. So they will be a team that will be battle-tested, but also will need to make some noise to kind of put their stamp on, okay, hey, leaving a legacy as a senior class or as this group before Vorst heads off to Indiana State, for them to make a presence and go on a run in Division II, because we know that Division II is loaded when you take a look at the teams in our area that are state-ranked 1, Defiant, Central Catholic, and Sandusky, 5, 6, 7 in the latest Division II boys state rankings. But the teams in the brackets, there's gonna be some very good teams in Division II who get bounced in the first or second round.
I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I think that's when they're probably going to face their biggest test when we get to the tournament, because, man, you're going to run into some guys there, and they're going to know how to deal with, the size. They're going to have some big football players bumping Vorst around. I know exactly what's going to happen, but they just they should take care of business, next week. But now they got to really focus on this tournament after that.
And we talk about Vorst. Don't be as surprised to see his name as one of our top 30 first-team All-BCSN candidates as we release the top 30 boys and top 30 girls live on Game Day Nation Overtime this coming Friday night. Deon and Rhett Boyd will be there. I'll be there as well, filling in for Joel Sebastianelli. So we're looking forward to that.
I like how you came today, man.
You're
preview.
You're repping your deal here. I got to try to match the style of Deon. I got to do it. But thank you. I appreciate the compliment. All right, let's go from boys basketball to girls hoops. And the brackets are out, so we're going to do some reaction to last few days' games, preview ahead to this week's games, and then also incorporate the brackets, because the brackets were determined this past Sunday, so they are out. So we'll start in the NLL. Deon, Anthony Wayne, freshman, 𝗬𝗫𝗫 buzzer beater. We touched upon it at the top of the podcast. They get the win over Springfield. And then on Tuesday night, in a matchup of a Division IV powerhouse against a Division I powerhouse, Toledo Christian at Anthony Wayne. On the girls' side, the Bender sisters, Elise and Brooke, took over 50-plus points combined between those two. Brooke broke the single game Anthony Wayne record for three-pointers. I believe she had 7 3-pointers. And this game, though, Deon, was really close. Halftime, Toledo Christian was up. Third quarter, tight ball game. Fourth quarter, domination by Anthony Wayne. They pull away with a 14-point victory.
It's unusual to see a contest like that this time of the year, but I do believe it was great for both teams. They need to see some different looks, particularly Toledo Christian. If they're going to go on a run, they want to kind of see where they're at. So I think even though they lost, I think they can get some good stuff out of it, and they're going to go in with a little confidence. And if you're Anthony Wayne, you also want to see where you're at. Those girls, I always talk about this. They're very long. They're very good defensively. They move the ball around. They can shoot. They rebound extremely well. This was a good game for them as well.
Mackenzie Royal Davis reached 1,000 points late in that game. Kendall Braden, teammate on TC, also reached 1,000 points within that game, albeit a loss on the road. But the height really caused problems for TC's post players, including Mackenzie Royal-Davis.
It did. You know what I mean? Like, the things they could do at Division IV, they just couldn't do there. But I will say this about Braden. She proved that she could play at any level. You know, all the hype she's getting, all the offers. Hey, you can be quiet now. She showed she's exactly who we said she was. So.
Yeah, and she's been fantastic as a junior this year, so she got that 1,000 points as a junior. Much room for growth.
You know what's crazy? They got it on their court, and I know it probably was weird. I know they stopped the game and everything. Shouts out to AW for that, but that's kind of a, you know.
I like how they were very complimentary.
Yes.
Coach Tim Wensink for TC, also the athletic director, so has the mind and foresight to, hey, let's make sure the road PA announcer knows what the situation is. They're tracking the points throughout the game, and it was a really cool, unique element because if you don't recall, a couple years ago on the boys' side with Toledo Christian, two teammates got 1,000 points on the same day, Cole McWhinney and Trevor Wensink, Tim Wensink's son. So, I mean, just the oddity of that to have two teammates on the boys' side a couple years ago do it in the same game, players who have been playing together for so long, and then Kendall Braden and Mackenzie Royal-Davis doing it in the same fashion.
It's just hard, though, as a coach because you stop. Obviously, there's a little bit of pageantry there, but then you have to get refocused on the game to play. So that's the part, and I'm just looking at it from the coaching aspect of it. That would be tough. Okay, we got to get refocused. We have a game to play here. But, hey, nonetheless, great job by Anthony Wayne for celebrating them as well.
Yes. All right, let's go to the track now. Fremont Ross lost to Whitmer. Then they beat Central Catholic in a matchup of first and second place teams. Fremont Ross got it done 62-49. The first win for the Fremont Ross girls over Central Catholic since the 1994-95 season. So congrats to them. But then the parity plays in the track. Fremont Ross, after that win, goes on the road to Findlay and loses to Findlay 57-54. So as a result of that week's worth of games within the track with the top teams, Central Catholic is in control in first place in the track.
The highest of highs, the lowest of lows. Like that's the thing, you know, about you have to have a short memory whether you win or lose in this league because, I mean, outstanding win by the girls, Fremont Ross, obviously, but then you got to get prepared to play another team who's just itching. Hey, we can knock them off. But sometimes you wonder, man, did we just put too much in this? And that's the dilemma as a coach. How do we settle the players down and say, okay, we're going to enjoy this one, but we can't enjoy it too much. We got another game to play.
All right, in the City League, we got this Thursday, Rogers at start on BCSN, just like the boys' side, where the top two teams likely going to meet in the regular season finale to decide the regular season standings and then play again in the City League Championship. It's Start and Scott on the boys' side. It appears to be Rogers and Start on the girls' side. The City League finals are Friday, February 10th. That game, regardless of who is involved, will be live on the BCSN Now app. Start playing really well with Coach Dane Franklin. They are the number 3 seed in their bracket in Division I. Rogers is number 2 in Division II.
I mean, Coach Smith has kind of flown under the radar. But Start, there's something special about this Start team to me. Coach Franklin's really come in, a lot of support. Like, you watch their games, you know, a lot of people go out to the games. I think when you have a Sinai Douglas, though, she is a difference maker. She really is. Special player. I think it Start's year this year.
All right, so we'll see how that shakes out with those matchups that you can be seen on the BCSN Now app. I do want to get into some talk on the bracket side. So if the seeds hold, in general, during the districts, most of the time, the seeds hold. So Anthony Wayne, the 1 seed in Division I. Fremont Ross, the 2 seed in Division I. Start is the 3 seed in Division I. And Springfield is the 4 seed in Division I. It's going to be an interesting way to see how these play out because, Deon, it's not like an NCAA tournament where the seeds dictate it. You got 116, 215. So you are seeded, and the way that the coaches can then take those seeds and place their team based on some strategy and where you want to play teams, maybe where the district is going to be played, etc. But Anthony Wayne and Fremont Ross, the 1 and the 2 seed, they would meet not in the regionals, they could meet in the district championship game. Same for Start and Springfield. Those are 4 top-tier teams.
That's a gauntlet. I mean,
Yeah.
so okay, it comes down to your team's strengths versus the other team's weakness. Where do we match up better at?
Yeah.
And, you may see some surprises, but that is like, because I really think what you named there, I think anybody probably could have been the number 2 seed out of that. I mean, honestly. So
Yeah.
it just comes down to, you look at common opponents, you look at, like I said, your strengths. How do we match up? And if we match up better, maybe we'll go here. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out.
Last year, Anthony Wayne played Start in the regional
I remember
finals.
that.
The winner goes to the state semifinals. Maybe, depending on how that session went on Sunday with the coaches figuring out the bracket, maybe those 2 teams deciding to avoid each other in the districts. Hey, let's run it back and possibly meet in the regionals. But Springfield's going to have a lot to say about that, and Fremont Ross is going to have to say a lot about that too.
It's weird, and I'm going to go back. I remember Earl Morris back in the day, like, because, they would give you little pills. I remember those little seeding things. He always wanted to play like a hard game at first. I just thought it was a very unique, to say the least. But he would get away with it. So maybe you try to catch a team early, and I don't know now. But me, I want the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And, I'll take my bet that way. But who knows?
In Division II, Central Catholic is the 1 seed. The 2 seed is Rogers. Also in Division II, Liberty Benton is a 1 seed, and Bryan is a 2 seed. So we could get Central Catholic versus Rogers. Also keep in mind, though, I look back in the brackets from last year. Central Catholic played Napoleon in the district semifinals and won a very, very close game, 47-42. So that matchup could happen again, but like we've talked about, you can't accept anything or take anything for granted, especially when it's 1 and out in the tournament. And then lastly, girls Division 4, Toledo Christian earned the Wood seed. Woodmore is the 2 seed. If TC does go on what they hope is a run through the tournament and possibly all the way to Dayton for the state semifinals, here's the teams that they would have to get through: Convoy Crestview, Ayersville, 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗃, Kalida, Mohawk, Cary, or Hopewell Loudon. All of those teams in the Northwest Ohio greater metro area at large. But TC has their markings after a tough regular season schedule to go far.
Justin, can I put some pressure on you?
Sure.
I know you like it. I mean, who do you see out of our area really getting down to the state? And I'm talking boys and girls real quick.
Boys or girls, I would go TC,
Division 4.
Central Catholic, A-Dubs, Start are those like group on the girls' side.
Okay.
On the boys' side, I'd still like to see a little bit more because they are 1 week behind the girls as far as regular season. But on the boys' side, I've seen Emmanuel. I've seen Central Catholic do it before with maybe they had Chico Johnson, who's not with. We'll see how that shakes out if he could get back onto the court, but I wouldn't cross your fingers on that. On how impactful he could be in the tournament if he does rejoin the team coming off the ACL injury. But I'd say Central, Emmanuel Christian, D1 getting past the regional semifinals. I think it's going to be tough.
So,
and I want to see the bracket. That's not out.
I was
yet.
gonna say we see the bracket because if Rossford gets a nice draw,
Yeah.
I still think. I mean, even playing Central doesn't have anybody 6'11". They don't have a Vorse.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? So I'd be interested to see how that shakes out as well, which we'll know more next week, obviously.
All right.
That was good.
Those brackets come out on February 5th, so we'll talk about that next podcast next week on the boys' side. All right, one more segment to go.
It's time for the BCSN Nation podcast question of the week. Send us your question on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook using the @BCSN Sports and #BCSN Podcast.
All right, the question of the week here on the BCSN Nation podcast, powered as always each and every week by Marco's Pizza. He's Deon, I'm Justin, and the question is for our game of the week, Deon, what can Cardinal Stritch take from round 1 against Emmanuel Christian, a loss, and then apply it to this Friday's game that can be seen on BCSN's Now app and live on the community channel. We got the Walleye on BCSN. We got Game Day Nation with me, Deon, and Rhett on BCSN 2. So we have to push our game of the week from BCSN 2 to the community channel. So What can 𝗦𝗃𝗍 take from round one against Emmanuel Christian and apply it to Friday's game?
Well, I think it's like I said earlier. I think not only from round one, you have to look at the team that's probably played them the best in the league, which I thought Toledo Christian did. They did it with a 2-3 zone. They did it rebounding. They got in the bonus early, too. They didn't knock their free throws down like they should have. If they knock their free throws down, we're talking about a whole different game. So I do think 𝗦𝗍𝗍 can match up size-wise, maybe athleticism-wise, but like I said earlier, I'm playing them the three. I mean, obviously you got to know where Nate Miles is. I think he's their best shooter, but I'm playing the percentages. I'm trying to get to the free throw line, and we got to get to the bonus, and we have to knock down shots, and we have to rebound with these guys. We cannot allow Emmanuel to get second and third shots. They're really good at that too. So you got to know where all their big guys are, and I don't know, that's the way they can pull it off, and they're at home.
And I think the intensity level is going to be cranked up. You talked about these smaller gyms within the TAC, where if the fans show up, if the student section show up, it's going to be a combustible arena. So keeping your emotions in check, avoiding any silly ticky-tack fouls or avoiding any eruptions and any technical fouls and leading to free throws and easy points and getting the ball back again.
You got to meet passes, because one thing that Emmanuel does, they reach a lot. That's why Jerry gets so many steals. So you have to watch those guys that get in the passing lanes. Maybe they can get some backdoor stuff going. But you're right. You got to take all the hype out of it. You got to take us out of it, guys. I know we like to hype games up. But you're right. You got to be in there, be composed, know exactly what you have to do. But limit those guys to one shot and out, and you have a chance.
This is a type of game, in my estimation, Deon, that could springboard. Whoever wins this game, this is a first place versus second place matchup in the TAC. Whoever wins this can springboard, use that as momentum. Hey, we have battled in a raucous environment, and we can use this as fuel and use it as experience as we go towards February tournament time.
I agree with you on that. But we got to give Emmanuel some credit, because they have weathered a lot of storms, and they still keep coming out on top. I mean, they played some pretty close games. There's been teams that's been close at the half with them in the league, obviously. But I think if they can maintain their focus, they just have to be themselves. They have to go, hey, we're the big dogs. We already know. If they're themselves, they'll come out on top.
All right, so that is our game of the week. That can be seen live on the community channel and on the BCSN Now app. We'll be watching that one, live look-ins during Game Day Nation, in conjunction with the top 30 release of the first-team All-BCSN basketball players on both the boys and girls side. We'll also have Anthony Wayne at Perrysburg, Bowser at Scott, Clay at St. Francis. St. Francis recognizing the 40-year reunion of the 1983 state championship team. Will be live at that game. During that game at halftime, they're honoring that group, so we'll take you live to St. Francis for that. We'll also have Bowling Green at Southview, Woodward at Waite, Perkins at Sandusky, Columbian at Bellevue, and Port Clinton at Huron. Plus, we'll be on the ice at Tamo with St. Francis and Northview, a key Red Division battle there, talking about who can win the championship on the hockey side. But we will be ready to go not only next week on the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Marco's Pizza, but also on Friday's Game Day Nation, 7 to 10, and then 10 to 10:30. Scores, highlights, live look-ins, interviews. Excellent analysis from Deon Thompson and Rhett Boyd. I'll be there just to put it on a tee and let them knock it out of the park. All right, that's Deon. I'm Justin. Thanks for watching and or listening to the BCSN Nation, powered by Marco's Pizza. Have yourself a great week. Enjoy the hoops, and we'll see you next time.